What is going on, YouTube? So coming back today with my next college football team preview, and today I am doing the Ohio State Buckeyes out of the Big Ten, a team that was a one-loss team last year, barely missed the college football playoff mainly because they didn't even end up going to the Big Ten championship as a result of a loss against Michigan State. So this is a team that has a lot of turnover heading into 2016. One big key piece coming back, and that is obviously the quarterback JT Barrett. This team will start and stop as JT Barrett goes and just performs poorly. There's no question, even with the turnover, they still have talent on this team. You look on the offensive side of the ball, Corey Smith, Curtis Samuel should be able to lead still a decent receiving core. Pat Efline, one of the better guards in the country. Centers in the country. Wait. I think this depth chart's messed up. He's definitely a guard. Anyway, leads an offensive line that should still be good. Mike Weber takes over for Ezekiel Elliott at running back. But anyway, back to what I was talking about with JT Barrett. Obviously, an up and down year last year for Barrett. Ended up in a quarterback battle with Cardale Jones for a couple months. It was one of the most talked about quarterback battles of the offseason, whether it was going to be Braxton Miller, JT Barrett, or Cardale Jones. JT Barrett ended up winning it out in the end. If we see the JT Barrett we saw in 2014 freshman campaign that had him throwing in the vicinity of 44 touchdowns, was an absolute stud, and then led Ohio State to the college football playoff after. And then after that, they won the championship, obviously, after he went down against Michigan. Excuse me if I sound bad. I'm kind of sick right now. But anyway, move on to my number 2 key player, and that is Sam Hubbard, the defensive end. That really will be taking on most of the expectations that, or most of the load that Joey Bosa will have left after this year. This is a defensive line that does return a little bit of experience. Michael Hill, Tracy Sprinkle will be leading the defensive tackles, and then Tyquan Lewis will most likely be opposite Sam Hubbard. So this is a defensive line that I think could be just as good as last year. The defensive tackles step up and play better than they did last year. But most of the pass rush will start with Sam Hubbard. If he's able to generate, an 8 to 10 sack type or 8 to 10 sack year, then this is a defensive line that shouldn't be able to miss a beat. Honestly, Joey Bosa wasn't extremely productive last year. I believe he had 6 sacks, missed 1 game for suspension, so just the fact that he was losing Joey Bosa, it sounds a lot worse than I think it will actually be. So my 3rd key player is the guy that will be the heart and soul of this Ohio State defense, and that is Raekwon McMillan. Projected first-round pick, absolute stud at middle linebacker. Should be able to lead a Ohio State defense that still has the ability to be good this year. Chris Worley at strong side linebacker, and then Dante Booker at weak side linebacker. Still 2 very talented players that should be able to lead one of the best linebacking cores in the Big Ten. This is a secondary that did lose quite a bit of talent. Whether you're talking about Eli Apple, Von Bell, they lost a lot of talent. So it feels like the linebacking core, the defensive line, is going to have to make up for a lot of that loss. So moving to my 2 X factors, and my first one is the transition from Ezekiel Elliott to Mike Weber. It's not hard for anyone to take on the torch of losing one of the best, if not the best, running back in college football. Mike Weber is a very solid option. He's not going to be alone in the backfield either. Briante Dunn should be able to take a lot of that load, and experienced running back heading into his 5th year at Ohio State. Now, if Mike Weber can even be a 4 to 4.5 yards per carry sort of back, you're talking about an Ezekiel Elliott player that averaged 4.6 yards per carry, I believe, last year, and then 4.9 the year before. Obviously, that's hard numbers to replicate. This should be a solid offensive line this year for Ohio State. So if Mike Weber can be, similarly elusive to Ezekiel Elliott, and if he can bring even in the same realm of production as Ezekiel Elliott, then this offense should be able to be just as effective as they were last year. So my second X factor is probably the biggest one for me, and that's consistency. Ohio State obviously could not even find any sort of consistency through the bulk of the regular season last year. I feel like the um, combination of expectations, suspensions, you're missing Joey Bosa for a game last year, JT Barrett after the DUI, then with all the amount of switching between Cardale Jones and JT Barrett, there was a lot put on their shoulders last year. And that's going to be hard for any college football team to take on. They were in a tough Big Ten conference. They finished off the year well, absolutely handling Michigan and then beating Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. So they do have momentum heading into this year. It's going to be key for this year. This is a very up and down schedule they're facing in 2016. They start out with Bowling Green and Tulsa and then head right into OU. They have to go to Norman, which might be their toughest game of the year. Excuse me. You got a couple games off, then you got at Wisconsin, at Penn State. Again, another group of tough tests. And then, Northwestern, Nebraska are not any teams that are pushovers, but not the toughest games. But then after that, you got a game at Maryland, and then you got a very tough stretch to finish the season at Michigan State and then Michigan at home. You're going to have to stay consistent, be prepared. Don't overlook any of the easy teams on your schedule, but at the same time, you got to be ready for those big stretches of games. And again, something that Ohio State struggled with mightily last year. If they can improve that, then this is a team that you could see return to the college football playoff in 2016. So my trap game for Ohio State is the Wisconsin Badgers. This is a Wisconsin team that I think will be improved in 2016. They weren't a terrible team in 2015 by any means, notching a bowl win over USC and I believe getting another 10-win season. So the thing that I think will be key for Wisconsin this year is the return of Corey Clement. And like I said, this is the start of a decently big stretch of games for Ohio State, and this is probably their toughest out of division game, and they got to be ready for a tough game at Camp Randall Stadium. So my biggest game for Ohio State is pretty obvious, and that is the Michigan Wolverines. The big game at the end of the year is if they're able to get past Michigan State, it should be a Michigan State team that's a little bit worse than they were last year. But, Ohio State ran over Michigan last year. This should be a dramatically improved Michigan team as well. A lot of preseason rankings have Michigan as high as number 3. Coming into the year, Michigan does have higher expectations. They are expected to do better than Ohio State this year. Ohio State will most likely be heading into that game as the underdog. I mean, it's too far away to be able to say that for sure right now. Obviously, the game happening in November, we're still in June. So the way things are looking right now, that's going to be a massive game that could decide the Big Ten, could decide both teams' fate for the college football playoff, 2 college football playoff contenders again, and what will be maybe the biggest game of the year inside the Big Ten. So moving my record prediction for Ohio State, and I do think they're going to end up going 12-2. If you saw my last college football playoff predictions, I did have Ohio State in the playoff, and I do still think they'll make it there. I think they're going to end up losing to OU in the regular season. That's going to be one of the most entertaining games of the year, but I think the fact that they got to go to Norman against a very experienced OU team, against a very motivated OU team after having a first-round exit in the college football playoff last year, might just be a little bit too much for a young Ohio State team. I do still think they'll be able to run through the rest of the Big Ten. I don't think there's any team that quite matches up to Ohio State besides Michigan. I think Michigan State's going to kind of take a tumble a little bit this year. I think it's going to be a Michigan State team that might be a 2 or 3 loss team. Now, Michigan game's obviously going to be a big one, but I don't know if Michigan's there yet. I'm not ready to say they are. This is a Michigan team that hasn't won against Ohio State in, I believe, over a decade now. So just keep that in mind, but obviously an Ohio State team that's fun to talk about and one that should be very entertaining to watch heading into 2016 and see what happens, see if they can maybe even get back to winning the college football playoff. That's pretty much it. I will be coming back later today or tomorrow with my Nebraska preview, so staying in the Big Ten for another team that might be in store for a big season, but that's pretty much it. So yeah.